Hello, Mr. Gduyuat. Welcome to Africa 54. All eyes are on Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for Tuesday night's high-stakes presidential debate between Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris and Republican former President Donald Trump. Anxiety is building as analysts say this rhetorical slugfest, which pits a prosecutorial puncher against one of America's best-known counterpunchers, could be decisive in the race for the White House. VOA's Anita Powell has more.
In the Republican corner, former President Donald Trump, trying to reclaim the title after a 4-year break.
Thank you very much.
And in the Democrat corner, Vice President Kamala Harris, the rising challenger who has Americans wondering whether she can go the distance all the way to the Oval Office. Tuesday evening's presidential debate, with its glossy production values, pre-event taunts, and starkly different contenders, feels like a heavyweight bout. Trump's last debate ended with a knockout. Just weeks after President Joe Biden's lackluster late June debate performance against Trump, Biden announced he would not seek re-election. Now, with Harris just weeks into running as his replacement, she faces Trump on the debate stage. But analysts say it's more than a spectacle. This toe-to-toe contest, where both will vie for points from a deeply split electorate, could be decisive. They bring very different styles to this stage. Trump has jabbed at Harris's intelligence and predicts that his odds against her are better than against his last debate opponent, Biden.
He is a smarter person than she is. Oh, they're waiting for the debate.
And here's Harris taking a short break from debate training.
Look, it's time to turn the page on the divisiveness. It's time to bring our country together, chart a new way forward.
June's Trump-Biden debate drew more than 51 million U.S. television viewers. Analysts expect big numbers for this matchup, too, and high stakes for both contenders.
Trump has to prove that he can be president, and he has to prove to a lot of the people who are looking at him that he can be as assertive and as aggressive as he wants to be without being rude, if he's going to try to get anybody that might not be currently on the Trump train. Kamala Harris has to prove that she's presidential. She has to prove that she can attack and she can pull back. She has to prove that she can identify where her policies are different than Biden, but still moving in the same Democratic platform.
Moderators will pepper the candidates with questions on major issues like the economy, reproductive rights, foreign policy, and more. Each candidate, given only a pen, paper, and water, has 2 minutes to reply.
To some extent, the debates give the two candidates a pass because they can state the things they want to do, their aspirations, without having to explain how they will do them. But where it becomes significant is they have to at least say, when they articulate their positions, what they think that will look like.
It all happens here in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, on Tuesday night. Anita Powell, VOA News, the White House.
For more on what to expect during tonight's debate, I'm joined live from here in Washington by Bruce Fine, an American lawyer specializing in constitutional and international law. Bruce, how do presidential candidates prepare for this make or break debate?
They ordinarily have what is known as moot courts, if you will, that they'll have the candidates stand up and confront potential questioners who will throw questions that they think are likely to be the ones that they confront by the ABC hosts. And then they have an answer, and then they critique the answer. That's pretty standard play for preparation. But that doesn't mean that they know in advance what the questions will be, so the preparations could be misplaced. On a couple occasions, there have been leaks from the media to the candidates to give them an advance warning. You remember Donna Brazile at CNN with Hillary Clinton, but that's very unusual. But anyway, that's the preparation format. It's like I would prepare for a moot argument before a court of appeals or the U.S. Supreme Court if I had a litigation case.
So, Bruce, what are the top issues you think that viewers should expect to hear first from Donald Trump and then Kamala Harris?
Well, Donald Trump, I believe, is going to emphasize, immigration. He'll say that we have terrorists coming across the border. It's completely out of control, that illegals are voting in massive numbers, and that they're going to taint the election if he doesn't win. I think that appeals to his xenophobic base. I think he'll also assert that the economy is in the doldrums, that inflation is high, you can't buy a home anymore, we need to stop imports with super tariffs, and they're not better off now under 4 years of Biden than they were after 4 years of Trump, something like that. And then he'll also claim, although he didn't do anything when he's president, that he will end these forever wars and we'll bring our troops home. But he didn't do that for 4 years. He was president. And these are just promises that are made, but most of them are forgotten the day after election.
What about
now, with regard to Kamala Harris, I believe that her winning cards are twofold. One, reproductive rights. And obviously with the overruling of Roe v. Wade and the Dobbs decision a couple of years ago, largely with Trump-appointed Supreme Court justices, it's a huge issue. There may be large turnouts in states that have abortion referenda up for popular vote on November. It's very clear that, according to all polls in the United States, the substantial majority of the American people believe in pro-choice in one form or another. And I think that will be a big issue, especially because even in some states, they're frowning on in vitro fertilization, which many families have to depend upon to have children. And I think the second thing that she will focus on is just the level of decency. Mr. Trump is notorious for his crudeness, vulgarities, belittling everybody, and she at least has the ability to discourse in more mild tones. And oftentimes voters are persuaded, especially if in the middle, and they're not huge differences in policies between the kind of characters that they like, that don't seem to be inflammatory, they don't seem to be incendiary, and the latter terms describe Trump but not Harris. So she may try to focus on those elements, and I think the behavior of Trump will speak for himself, as it is every time he conducts a campaign rally.
And quickly, Bruce, do you think the debate will change whatever choices the voters have already made? They've decided, I'm going to vote for this one or for the other one. Does this debate make any difference to them?
Well, we have a history going back to 1960 with presidential debates, the first one with Kennedy and Nixon. There seemed to be some belief at that time that the debates did sway the populace behind Kennedy more than Nixon for a variety of reasons. But since then, I can't think of a debate that was overwhelmingly crucial, absent gaffes. You may recall in 1976, then President Gerald Ford in the campaign against Jimmy Carter said the Soviet Union didn't have any troops in Poland, it wasn't dominating Eastern Europe, and that was kind of a staggering gaffe, and we do have a lot of Eastern Europeans at that time that thought it was ridiculous. And so I think that lost him some voters. Whether that was key to the outcome, I don't know. I believe in this kind of case, however, that where there's not great enthusiasm, these are not giants for their parties, either Trump or Harris. Even small things could make a difference, simply like tone and mannerisms, and that may be a small edge to Harris, but I wouldn't want to overstate it.
Bruce, I believe you and I will be watching the debate tonight. Thank you so much for your insight into this. Bruce Fein Bruce Fein is an American lawyer specializing in constitutional and international law. As the two candidates battle for America's undecided voters, what are their top concerns? While on the floor of both the Democratic National Convention and Republican National Convention, VOA's Carol Van Dam spoke to delegates to get their perspective on what matters most to them.
The U.S. election is fast approaching, so we thought we'd give you a brief flashback of some of the events leading up to the big day, November 5th. And those, of course, include the roller coaster ride of the month of July, when we had an assassination attempt on the Republican presidential candidate, Donald Trump, just 2 days before the Republican National Convention got underway in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Then, in late July, President Joe Biden made his big announcement that he was going to step aside and pass the torch to his vice president, Kamala Harris, to be at the top of the Democratic ticket. So we thought we'd take you down a road of some of the events at the Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention, with both the Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention now over and in the rearview mirror. One of them is the Republican challengers that decided to get on board with Donald Trump after that assassination attempt, and that includes South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, and she is also the former U.S. ambassador to the UN, and she said before she decided to speak at the convention that Donald Trump was unelectable. Asked if Nikki Haley really had her heart in the Trump campaign, we talked to Delegate Robin Holly, also of South Carolina, who had this to say.
I think if she is a person that I think that she might be, because I don't know her, I think that she's got some forgiveness and some motivation to move on and to keep us together and to help our country.
Onward to the Democratic National Convention, held in nearby Chicago, Illinois, just a few weeks later, where we met one of the attendees named David Duplantis, who's from California, and he had this to say about the speech from Vice President Kamala Harris.
It's electric. We're ready for Kamala. Kamala is ready for us.
And did she say anything to you that really hit home?
I mean, it's about restoring decency to the people, to have the people heard.
So there you have it, a little taste of what we heard at the Democratic National Convention and the Republican National Convention about the presidential candidates. We are gearing up for this first debate between the two candidates. They have never met before face-to-face, but they will now, September 10th, Tuesday, and we'll have live coverage of that ABC debate. We hope you can join us. It begins at 00:30 UTC time, and we'll be there with analysis afterward as well. We hope you can join us. I'm Carol Van Dam.
Kenyans on Tuesday are in the middle of a three-day national mourning period following the deaths of 17 students at Hillside Endarasha Academy boarding school in Nyeri County Thursday night. The students perished after a fire erupted in a dormitory at the school. The flags of Kenya and the East African community are being flown at half-staff until sunset on Wednesday, September 11th. VOA's Amos Wangwa spoke to people on what must be done to keep children safe at school.
The kind of conversation we do have with them, how we relate with them, how we talk to them, whenever they go to school, what kind of things they need to be done, what kind of things they need to do and not to do, you see. And let us try to have so much conversation with our children and let us know that the first school is from our house. Yes, from their house. I'm the first teacher as a parent. Let me teach my children, this is right, this is wrong.
So the first incident was accidental. The subsequent incidents were intentional. So the Kenyan youths, if I may say, are fond of peer influence. When an incident happens, so the subsequent ones is as a result of, I don't want to be left behind. Are you seeing? Now, this one comes as a result of some gaps. There's a very big gap between the parents, teachers, and the students. There seems to be a lot of freedom.
There's a lot that need to be done as far as maybe administrative issues are concerned within schools. There's also the question of student discipline. There's also the question of security in the schools. But I think if we approach these three items together as a country, probably as school administrations, with the support of the government, and be it the county government or the national government, I think everybody is a stakeholder when it comes to education. Therefore, we can't lay blame on either side. If there is blame to be accorded, then everybody should take the blame.
Kenyans reacting to the deaths of 17 children who died in a dormitory fire in Nyeri County last week. The former partner of Ugandan athlete Rebecca Cheptegei, who is accused of killing her by dousing her in petrol and setting her on fire, has died from burns sustained during the attack, according to the Kenyan hospital where he was being treated. Cheptegei, 33, who competed in the marathon at the Paris Olympics, suffered burns to more than 75% of her body in the September 1st attack and died 4 days later. Her former boyfriend, Dixon Diema Marangach, died Monday evening, according to a spokesperson at Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital in Eldoret, Western Kenya. Cheptegei's death has put the spotlight on domestic violence in Kenya. Sierra Leone was once scarred by a decade-long civil war. It paralyzed the country's progress and denied many a chance to go to school. However, there's hope for a brighter future driven by the country's rising school enrollment. And joining me live from Freetown is Conrad Sake, Sierra Leone Minister of Basic and Senior Secondary Education. Minister Sake, welcome to Africa 54. Let's start by the rising number of student enrollment in school, which is remarkable. How did you get there?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. When His Excellency the President came into power in 2018, he introduced as his flagship program a program called the Pre-Quality School Education Program. And this is a poor policy which relieved the average household of the financial burdens that would have stopped them from sending their kids to schools. And so through this process, we provide free tuition, we provide free examination fees, free teaching and learning materials, free school meals, free sanitary pads to our girls, and assistive technology to those who are disabled. In addition to that, we also introduce progressive policies. And let me just highlight a few of them for you. The first one is in 2020, we overturned a 5-year ban on pregnant girls from attending schools. The second is that in 2021, we introduced a policy called the Radical Inclusion Policy that targets marginalized kids to be re-engaged into schools. And we also have a national out-of-school strategy, which targets those who have fallen through the cracks and re-engaging them back into the education system. And lastly, just this year, we introduced a policy which ended child marriages, and it's titled the Prohibition of Child Marriage Bill of 2024. So you could see that these are things that have removed the barriers for those young people who may not have been engaged in school. And
right.
We have lifted the burden of parents.
Right. Let's move on from here, because I really want to hear how the girls are doing. How has technology changed Sierra Leone's education system, especially for girls who are left behind, even as we remember the dark days of the Civil War?
Well, I think in the first instance, our education transformation strategy is underpinned and focused on the use of technology to drive data and data-led decisions. So we piloted, for example, a program called We There, which stands for We Are Here. And this is an education and attendance monitoring policy that targets both learners and teachers. So in the case of learners, you can then identify where the learners are. You could also identify those who are in need of extra support. So in the case of the girl child, those who are pregnant, those who are parents, learners themselves, and those with disabilities, we can also identify those and what their disabilities are. We will then target the support that we provide for these learners so as to ensure that they do not drop out of the system. This was done as a pilot, and the intention is to scale this up to a national level across the country in the next 1 or 2 years.
Minister Sake, what's your strategy to get every child in school? Because there's still some out there who don't think they should be in school, or maybe the parents don't see the point. What's your strategy here?
Well, we do have a national out-of-school strategy, which targets those young learners that have dropped out of school. And the idea there is that we approach them, we provide them with some incentives, we then identify what their needs are, and through those needs, we will provide a support package for them so that they would be retained in the system. Those who are much older, we provide some form of functional literacy and numeracy, in addition to some vocational skills, so that they can survive whilst actually picking up the key skills of literacy and numeracy.
So when you look at the girls and the boys, which one is, what are you getting in terms of enrollment? Are the girls enrolling more or the boys?
Well, we have a parity of esteem in our primary schools and in our junior secondary schools. We are yet to achieve that in the senior secondary school, but this is something that we are working on quite effectively and robustly.
Minister Saki, thank you very much. I hear you are really behind this, getting the girls and boys back to school. Thank you so much for talking to us. Conrad Saki is Sierra Leone's Minister of Basic and Senior Secondary Education. Still to come, the latest on global outbreak on cholera. We'll be right back.
Next, Straight Talk Africa. On Tuesday night, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump will face off in their first debate. Join me, Vincent McCory, for an in-depth look at the debate and how each candidate might approach U.S.-Africa relations.
Welcome back to Africa 54. You're watching this show live from the headquarters here in Washington, D.C. In other news, a boat carrying migrants bound for Europe has capsized several kilometers off the coast of Senegal, leaving at least 4 people dead and several others missing, according to local authorities. Local fishermen on Sunday rescued 3 people who were brought back to shore by the Senegalese Navy. Torrential downpours hit North Africa's normally arid mountains and deserts, killing 11 people in Morocco and 5 people in neighboring Algeria, according to Moroccan and Algerian officials. The weekend flooding in both countries destroyed homes and critical infrastructure. Officials say drinking water and electrical infrastructure were also damaged, along with major roads. And the United Nations Security Council is expected to vote Wednesday on whether to renew existing sanctions that prevent the transfer of military equipment to Sudan's Western Darfur region. The pending vote comes as Human Rights Watch is calling on the Council to expand an existing arms embargo to the rest of the country. The recently concluded UNAA convention in Washington, D.C. brought together Ugandans living abroad to promote collaboration and investment for Uganda's economic development. The event focused on technology, innovation, healthcare, networking, and investment, providing a platform for Ugandans in the diaspora to explore opportunities for contributing to their home country's growth. Dr. Shaka Sali, the former host of VOA's Straight Talk Africa, was presented with a Lifetime Achievement Award for his outstanding contribution to the media industry, which inspired and paved the way for the next generation of young journalists across Africa. VOA's Bondiho has more.
We're celebrating 36 years of existence. We are, I would say, the oldest and most organized African organization in the diaspora. And the reason we organize these conventions is to pull Ugandans from the diaspora, pull them together to go through different discussions, network and talk about business opportunities.
And this is a platform that brings Ugandans that stay in this part of America and those from back home to meet each other, to reunite and even share networks and business ideas and everything on how they can better contribute back home.
I am with the Luganda Academy. We are based in DC and we are online language culture instruction in Luganda language.
This is the annual Uganda convention. It takes place every once a year in different cities around the country. This year it happens to be in Washington, D.C.
Coming from Uganda, bringing you affordable housing to our people and the community in America. We put up affordable housing projects, that is our apartments that are under condominium arrangement.
We can invest in the skills that we've built, the relationships that we've built, and make sure we introduce those to our Uganda, and not just introduce them, invest in healthcare. Our people are dying, and yet we have so many Ugandan nurses here.
Perhaps one of the significant events that took place at this convention was honoring our former colleague Dr. Shaka Sali with a Lifetime Achievement Award. They credit Shaka Sali for using his voice to empower millions across Africa, for empowering young journalists across the continent, and giving people a voice, especially those who felt like they needed to express themselves.
Of the people of Kawali, the small southwestern Ugandan town where I was born and partly grew up. On behalf of my fans around the globe, on behalf of my mother and my father, on behalf of my friends and critics, I accept the award with humility.
The takeaway from this conference for me was the simple fact that you have a lot of people who are here to sort of forge relationships between the Ugandans in the diaspora and try to figure out how to make their country better. You are talking about people who are looking for investment in the area of oil, renewable energy. We have a lot of sun in Uganda, so that's another area where people can tap into that resource. Real estate, Uganda has a shortage of housing. Investment in real estate is critical. There are so many technology firms that are trying to make their mark in the country, but getting investors from here will make a big difference. I'm Paul Ndiho, VOA News at the National Harbor in the U.S. state of Maryland.
Thank you so much, Paul, for that report, and congratulations to Shaka Sali, our former colleague right here at VOA, for that great award. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.